Hey there, Knicks fans. How you doing? It's your boy, Jonathan Macri, with you for another episode of the Knicks Film School Podcast as I drag my near lifeless body across well, it's not a finish line, but like the rest line. Do they have rest lines in marathons? Jeremy Cohen, what am I dragging my body across? Because one, I'm freaking exhausted, and two, I can't think straight or formulate words. So please help me.
Well, I was going to say, how does this day differ from all other days?
That's fair.
But that's, yeah. So no, there is not a line of rest to my knowledge for marathon runners. I don't think it's like the halfway point where they're just like, you can stop here. I think they can stop
and rest here. No.
Yeah.
Well, you can stop, but it's frowned upon.
Of the two of us, you're the one who jogs consistently. So
I do. I do jog consistently and I don't take rests. I just, because I think this is the thing that happens when you get old. If I stop, then that's it. There's no more running. I need to just keep going.
It's fair.
Yes, but the point, moral of the story, whatever you want to say, is I am happy we've arrived at the All-Star break, and my happiness level has been increased exponentially. I mean that by the fact that we are sitting here getting to talk about and enjoy a team that has just, been really delightful of late. Has it not? I've been exhausted all day. I did not get a lot of sleep last night, but we should also mention we're recording this on Thursday, February 16th. We probably should have said that at the top. Sorry. Because we're all going on vacation because again, we need breaks. But yeah, last night was the Hawks win. And I've just been on cloud nine all day because of that win and how they've been finishing things up. So yeah, Jeremy Cohen, what are your thoughts, man?
The vibes are immaculate. 5 of their last 6 games have been wins. 6 of the last 8 haven't lost since the Josh Hart acquisition. All good things. None of it feels like it was fake. It just feels like legitimate, consistent basketball. And mind you, all of this is happening without Mitchell Robinson.
Yes.
And I'm very excited to see him coming back. The defense is taking a hit, but the offense is chugging along. And to now pair him with that to help fix, I say fix gently. It's not a broken defense. It's just, it can only get better by putting him back there. He is their best defender. And then to add that element on offense where we can all love Jericho Sims, but I love him more as a third string center who can see minutes when he has to, as opposed to starting, and having Mitchell Robinson start in his place is certainly an improvement there. So it's just nice to see that when things are going well, they could be better. And it doesn't even feel like they're leaving meat on the bone. It just, no, they're getting someone back. This is, as Brian Cashman might say, like, oh, this is another acquisition that they're making, a post-deadline deal. And to that, I would roll my eyes, but I'm happy Mitch is coming back and we'll go from there. And yes, if the trade deadline were after the All-Star break, that would just be so cruel. It's nice to go from just a couple weeks of stress, anxiety, not necessarily in a bad way, but just the fear of the unknown. Have some time to then go into the All-Star week and then take it a little bit easier than we would before we gear up for the rest of the season.
On that note, I think we're bringing up a special guest. You have seen this person before in such popular programs as the Knicks Film School Podcast and the Knicks Film School Podcast.
And the pregame show, the Knicks Film School pregame show, and the Knicks Film School postgame show, and some playback watch parties, potentially even on a casual Friday here and there. Hi, everybody. Thank you for tuning in for the first episode post All-Star game. Wasn't that great when Julius did that thing? I'm so glad they finally let Jalen Brunson in as well. Could you believe they spent all that time celebrating LeBron and nobody cared? Especially the fine folks in Salt Lake City, Utah. Anyway.
Only the best people.
Yes, only the best. I'm sure they quite enjoyed the clientele on the court, especially when Lauri Markkanen was introduced with the starting 5. Anyway, we are going to do something fun to do for the rest of this episode. If you remember, before the season, we went and we're looking at what odds and betting lines and where to project the best places to find value in the new betting market here in New York City and where that would be. And we took a little trip to Claudio Casino. And we looked at the lines that were projected to us. I guess Jon and Jeremy technically looked at the lines and decided whether they like the over or under with certain bets. And I thought it'd be good to review how those bets are doing at the moment, and go back to Claudio Casino and see maybe if they want to do some hedging while we're at it during the All-Star break.
Am I going to think this is a good idea to look back at these bets?
You're not as bad as I think you think you might be, Jon. I'll say that. I think you're afraid that like a bunch of your odds are bad, and I think they're actually not terrible.
I just want to say that I have less negative recollection of any of the things that I said during this episode, as it should surprise no one because I don't remember what I had for lunch today.
I was going to say, this is a recollection of things you previously said is something we're ready to take care of on this podcast. Don't worry.
Thank you so much.
As a result, we head to Claudio Casino and look at our first bet. And that was, how many minutes will Obi Toppin and Julius Randle play together this season? The line was set at 100.5. Jeremy, do you remember what you said?
Did I take the under?
You took the under, and it was because you said, and this, by the way, here's how my afternoon went after we finished recording Patreon, Jon. I started preparing for this episode, and I went back and rewatched that episode from before the year. First of all, we produce a really good podcast. That was a really good episode. Just throwing it out there. Everybody wants to.
Who's we?
I'm just saying that was really well produced, and the graphics were great, and it looked awesome. Whoever the producers of this show, he's doing a great job. I went and rewatched it, and I know word for word what you all said in each these things. Jeremy actually said, I don't think Tibbs will trust Obi enough to play them together. Although if he has taken a step in his career, this should be an easy over. And here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah.
We here.
Womp
here.
womp.
So how do you feel, Jon? Because you took the over.
I did. Thanks.
Do you want to know how many they played together?
Just to be clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is payback for my tanking team digs during the Patreon episode earlier today.
Tune to the Patreon to find out how that went.
I was proud of myself for those jokes. Is it 72, 73 minutes or something like that?
It is 72 exactly, according to NBA stats. So,
I mean, it's not over until we say it's over. Is that a line in a movie? I don't think so. Look, it could still, they're on pace to pass it. Barely, I think. Like they're right. If they stay on the exact pace there, I'm just digging myself a deeper grave. This is not going to go over. I've
already started looking at the drink menu, Jon.
That's great. So can I hedge? What do I?
I'm now going to set a new line. They need to get 29 more minutes to get the over. I'm setting a new line of 25 more minutes. 25 and a half for the rest of the season.
How far under can I go? All the way under.
Okay. How about 10 and a half more minutes?
Under.
Okay. So we're in the same boat. I don't know how many minutes.
Well, Jeremy, what do you think though? Are you the only person who gets to set the lines?
Yes, Claudio Casino. I will say it to both of you. If what line would it have to be for you to take an over?
That's what I was asking. Honestly, I'm at the point where, because here's the thing. He has admitted openly. This is a thing I will try when we are down big and we need to try to score a lot of points. And he hasn't used the word desperate, but he's all but saying it's like, if I'm desperate, I'll do it. That's it. How often has this team been desperate of late? And because they stay in these games and they're competitive. And it's not only desperation, it's like desperate in a game where that pivot makes sense. So it's like you need two things to hit. Here's the problem. If it happens once, it might happen for 5 minutes, So you know what? Maybe 10 and a half is the right line, because it's like asking, is this going to happen 2 or 3 more times the rest of the year? 10 and a half, I'm still going under.
Jeremy?
Can I just stay?
Well, yeah, you took the the under. I'm saying, what line would you have if not? Let's pretend you're not hedging, obviously, but if you were to give advice to somebody, what line would it have to be for you to say, all right, that will go over?
What was my line again?
The line before the season was 100.5.
Okay, I'd say don't go over 100.5 in the first place.
In the first,
yeah, like just don't do it.
You
that would be my advice. I'm not saying anyone, I'm not calling anyone by name, but John, if you, I mean, here's the thing I'm trying to also think through. How many of the, and maybe you have this in front of you, maybe you don't. How many of those minutes came with Mitchell Robinson injured? Because if there were ever a time in my mind where he would have played around with that duo, the bulk of those minutes should have or would have come between January 24th and the game that was on the 15th.
Ooh, well, rarely. I want to say the only time he played them together was in the game against Washington when Mitch got hurt because they were down big and he was trying to spark the offense, you know?
I'm just for what it's worth. I'm looking at the rest of their schedule and I'm trying to look for games like, okay, well, I could see them maybe getting down by a bit in this game. And then I'm like, okay, so, Boston, at Sacramento, Denver at home, assuming everybody plays. Is he really looking at those teams and be like, yeah, I trust Obi Toppin defensively, the Obi Randall combo defensively, that whatever they provide on offense. Like the thing with them now is, especially since they've added Hart, I think Tibbs would be even more emboldened to feel like I don't need to pivot to that to juice the offense, to say nothing of the fact that they have the 6th ranked offense in freaking basketball 60 games into the season. So that's like, again, if he has only gone to it in the past because he wants to juice the offense, we know he doesn't trust it on defense. Yeah. Under.
Net rating, by the way, in those 72 minutes, granted, somewhat small sample size, but still, it's a negative 6.7. So, in the sense of, I don't think that will encourage him to go in that direction. So I would say 10.5 would be basically implying 83 minutes, right?
Yeah.
I'd say over 8. I'd say over that.
Okay.
Just takes 3 games, 4 minutes.
3 fourth quarters. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Well, drinks on you, John. I'm not turn that into some content. What are you not doing?
Not conceding anything yet. Nothing's been conceded.
Don't worry. We'll make it we'll revisit this in April. How's that?
Thank you.
The next bet, you both, I think, should be proud of yourselves. I'm double checking that this number is correct. And it is. Yes, it is. The next bet was how many games will Quentin Grimes start this season? The line was 25.5. You both took the over, and Quentin Grimes has started 44 of his 49 games played this season. So the way Josh Hart has played, do you have any thoughts, concerns about this number not one day stopping at a certain point? Or do you think he'll stay with the second unit?
Can I ask a different question? I'm making up rules on the fly.
Sure.
Of both of you, because this is how I answer your question. Who's more likely to be pushed out of the starting lineup, RJ Barrett or Quentin Grimes?
Quentin Grimes.
Jeremy?
I mean, here's my issue, right? Like, yeah, I mean, the answer is Quentin Grimes. But if we're talking about between the two of them, yeah. But I think the reason why I would rather just keep Josh Hart coming off the bench, I feel he is a really strong player off the bench. And I think he's fine in the starting lineup. I think he's good. But the way I see it is when you look at what Tibbs typically has those types of players do, I feel like that's not what Hart does. He's not like the guy who's going to just fire when ready, like catch and shoot type player. I think he needs to do a little bit more than that. And he does a little bit more than that. Not to say that Grimes solely 100% of his shots are spotting up, but I think that I enjoy kind of like the 1-2 punch that he and Quickly provide, he being Josh Hart coming off of the bench. And I would just like to keep it as such. I know that because he's playing well, there's maybe a mindset of like, oh, let's just get him to start games. I think he's phenomenal where he's at right now. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I'm with you. Just to be clear, I don't think the starting lineup is changing the rest of the year. But again, it's I guess if I don't think it's changing, then it's a silly question. But if forced to pick one of Barrett or Grimes to leave the starting five, I would actually pick Barrett. That I think would happen, not what I would do, to be clear.
One thing I just want to add, because they talked about this, they being Zach Lowe and Chris Herring on the Low Post, talking about how the belief that the Hart acquisition was intended to kind of light a fire under RJ, under Grimes, any of these players. I don't see it the same way. I see it as the Knicks recognizing a clear need, and they once again turned a non-rotation piece or pieces and an asset into something that could help their rotation. I think that there is certainly a chance that if a star comes around or if there's a better player on the market, that the Knicks certainly try to make an upgrade. I think that the idea that like bringing Hart in puts pressure on them to perform better. No, the pressure on them to perform better is it should be unspoken. They need to be better, period. Yes, it's someone else who's going to cut into their minutes, but I didn't see it quite as like the Knicks made this move because they're worried and they want to light a fire under these guys. If it lights a fire, then that's great. To me, it just felt like we're bolstering our team this year and we have coverage in the event that we decide to make something larger this offseason. I don't know what your thoughts were.
I just want to add an additional addendum, and I know this is not your point that you were making. You were just saying what they said, but I want to caution the collective conversation. Let's not group Quentin Grimes and RJ Barrett together so snugly. Quentin Grimes had a good year for where he's at as a second-year player, like in terms of what's been expected of him. Like that dude, I understand he's been slumping a little bit late. I understand there are nights where he doesn't look like the Knicks' best perimeter defender. He's been good. RJ's had a down year. So I that's not your point. I completely agree with your point, by the way. Yeah. But I just want to had to throw that in there.
No, you're right.
Speaking of RJ Barrett, by the way.
Yes. Is there an RJ Barrett wager coming up?
Somewhat. How many Knicks will average at least 20 points per game this season?
Fuck this up.
This is where John has to kind of wear it a little bit. Because the line was 2.5. Yep, some crow. So the line was 2.5. I will say RJ Barrett is down to 19.7 points per game. So the under is currently hitting, but it's literally like a week of 20 point games and he's back. The Knicks not only have not only have potentially RJ, but they have two guys that have very much cleared 20 points per game. Jeremy, you were confident in 2, not necessarily 3, because you were right in taking the under that it would be 2, but you thought Julius would take a step back as far as usage. I will say it's almost worked the opposite, that Julius took a step up in usage and RJ was the one that took a step back. And then there's John's bold prediction from the newsletter before the season where you said,
I was going to own up to it.
I know, but I'm going to make fun of you for it first. You said that there would be no Knicks that average 20 points per game this season. I even gave you the chance and moved the line to 1.5. Then I moved it to 0.5 and you took the under both times.
I feel like there shouldn't even be an option for him to hedge because you gave him the option to hedge. And it's
both
still, yeah. You could go negative.
Yeah.
I got nothing. No, this folds right into the biggest thing I was wrong about going into this year, which is I did not think that there was a snowball's chance in hell that this team would sniff a top 10 offense. I thought if they could get to being a top half of the league offense, like somewhere in the mid-teens, I was like, where do I sign for that? Because that would be an unbelievable accomplishment. The fact that they are that's why like the probably the biggest shock for me isn't that they're 6th in offense at the All-Star break. We'll see what happens after tonight's games. But that it's not a bigger story around the league. Like I guess people are just like, well, yeah, Jalen Brunson, he's been awesome, and Julius Randle's hitting shots. So okay, but the Knicks are 6th in offense. Incredible. Anyway, neither here nor there. Terrible job by me. There's nothing I can say. Just awful. Terrible.
Would you like to hedge? And I give you 3 over 3.5. So Josh Hart will end up averaging close to 30 points a game for the Knicks.
If the question is, do I think so? Obviously, 2 of these players are going to average over 20 because they're averaging like 25. Do I think RJ is ultimately going to average over 20? That's a good question. I think he will.
I do too.
Yeah, I think he will.
Jeremy?
Yeah, no, I took 2.5. I took 1.5 because that seemed like the safe bet. I'll take over 2.5. I'll do it because I feel like also just if you take out the last 6 games, right? The last 6 games that he's played were just god awful, right?
Mm-hmm.
Really just atrocious stuff. He was averaging over 20 points per game before those last 6 games, was he not?
I did my updated stars standings for the aforementioned newsletter today, going back over the last 19 games. There's a lot of games that I gave him like 2 stars. He had a few 3-star games. He had, he's had good games, of like in the last month and a half.
So your point, it was 20.3 points per game from his very first game of the season until 6 games ago or 7 games ago, which would have been the 47th game of his season. That's over 20.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think if we, obviously the league is not going to do this because it counts, but like the Mavs game is on his ledger when he played a minute and a half and didn't score, which is kind of unfair. But anyway,
add in the fact, like, you're right, Jeremy, because I did the same thing on Basketball Reference and did the game log up until the 47th game, that 30-point game against the Heat, where he was at 20.3. He also scored 4 points against Brooklyn on Monday, and he was averaging 20.1 going into that game. So I'm telling you, it's honestly, a couple good games, and he's back to 20.5 as the third guy, and the vibes will be even more immaculate. And that, I think, to the intro you guys gave talking about the vibes on this team, what's so cool is that I think they can be better. It's not just Mitch coming back. It's RJ being better. It's people settling into a role. And that's why, man, yes, this question, I was like, 2.5 is the correct line to set. And now it's like 2.5 is the correct line to set. And I'm very confident in the over hitting,
I think there's a good shot of it. This team scores a lot of points. Yeah. Good.
I also, before we move on from this question, because I don't see another opportunity in Claudio Casino to do this, this is where we talk about Julius Randle and how good he's been this year. Because I was closer to Jeremy before the season in that he'll take a step back and be the third guy in usage. And this is where Obi ends up more. And the minutes are closer to like 25, 23 this season. There'll be games where Obi closes over Randle, and the opposite has happened. For better or for worse, if you want to see more from Obi Toppin, but Julius Randle, I think, has actually earned. He'll be playing in the All-Star game that you guys already watched.
It's great.
Yeah, it was a great game.
Wonderful game.
Loved it.
The people there loved it. Listen, this is a testament to him and the commitment to the new shot chart. And, that guy from 2 years ago, some of that was still in there, and kudos to him for working his butt off to make sure we got to see it again.
I'll steal a stat from Thursday, or what's today? Thursday's newsletter. The Hawks game was the 30th time he either hit 25 or 25 points or exceeded 25 points this season. So he's had at least 25 in half of his games that he's played. That ties him with, this was as of Wednesday night, Donovan Mitchell, Ja Morant, and DeMar DeRozan for 12th most in the league. Here are the 11 players who have had more such 25-point games. Jason Tatum, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Luka, Joel Embiid, Giannis, Anthony Edwards, Dame, LeBron, Jaylen Brown, Trae Young, and Kevin Durant.
Pretty good company.
When you consider the efficiency, it's pretty phenomenal company.
And my favorite Julius Randle stat so far of this year, when you factor all of that in, it's 0. Do you guys know what that 0 would be?
0
games missed.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Most important
In
stuff.
a league where players are taking nights off and they have to consider, are we going to tie in the regular season awards to games played for a criteria? As of this moment, Julius Randle has played every single game of the year. And that's just really impressive to me. And I appreciate the fact that he goes out there and he plays. And he's been very fortunate. And hopefully that continues. So that's why I'm saying the first half of the season, well, I guess, since the pre-All-Star break, played every single game. May it continue post-All-Star break.
Agreed.
I wish there was an easy way to sort, who's played in every game, but you can't because the teams play different numbers of games. But he's played 60 games. The only players in the league who have played more are, or the only player, is Isaac Okoro with Cleveland. And then there are some teams that, like Anthony Edwards hasn't missed a game. He's playing tonight. So he's also up there, and a couple other guys. But yeah, it's rare.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say the 0 was for 0 thumbs down this season, but
there have been 0 thumbs down.
The vibes are good. And look, as John quoted something from the newsletter 5 days ago, I'll quote something from an episode of this pod 4 days ago, where on Casual Friday, we did a PRA draft for the rest of the season, a points, rebounds, assist draft on the show on Friday. And with the third pick overall, Mensa Smith took Julius Randle. So the stability of knowing he's going to play how many minutes he is. He's up there in the top 10 for points, rebounds, and assists on the season. He's actually third this season for that combined stat total. And
that's wild.
Yeah. Shout out to Mensa for there are flashier names on other teams. Mensa has Anthony Edwards, Pascal Siakam, all of the guys that play minutes, don't miss games, and are dependable,
He's third, I would assume, behind Jokic and...
Let me double check. I've closed out.
It's definitely behind Jokic, because Jokic
Giannis was the other one.
Maybe? Potentially Giannis. Yeah.
Giannis has missed some games, and he doesn't have a ton of assists.
For total points, rebounds, and assists this season, Julius Randle is third behind Luka Doncic and Jason Tatum.
Jokic he has more total points, rebounds, and assists than Nikola Jokic.
Yes. Jokic
averaging. He's missed some games, which helps. Yeah, Randall.
Yeah, I guess so. Okay, bad job by me.
He's got 19 more, 2379 for Julius and 2360 for Jokic.
Right.
Yeah. So there you go.
Good stuff.
Julius Randle. Somebody else we were high on before the season that I think has played his way into a different role, and I got to give Jeremy props for this. The next line: how many games will Emmanuel Quickley start this season? I set the line at a whopping 3.5, because he had never started more than 3 games in a season. 4 games in his career. And I doubted whether we would end up with any starts for him, even if an injury to Brunson happened, which honestly, the injury to Brunson wasn't the thing that happened. It was the injury to Quentin Grimes, or the injury to RJ Barrett, or other injuries that led to starts for Emmanuel Quickley. But Jeremy's the only one that took the over, and it hit. He has started 10 games this season, and more to his credit, played himself out of trade talks this year.
So, take a victory lap, Jeremy, please.
This whole episode so far has been a victory lap for me. It's rare that I get this, so I'll take it.
What's the new line?
So here's the tough part.
We're assuming injury, right?
You said it was 10, right? He's played 10
he's played 10 this year. Yeah.
10 and a half.
So I was about to say, do I make it 0.1, 0.5?
So the question is, let's say...
Can I give you a real new line?
Sure.
So for the full season, 14 and a half. So we start 5 more games. He's at 10 now.
Well, can I just talk this out? If Brunson goes down, Quickly starts for him. I think so. That's my 2 cents. If RJ goes down,
Hart.
Probably. Yes, because Quickly is the backup point guard now.
Mm-hmm.
If And that same logic probably applies for Grimes. So I think the only way this happens is, I mean, unless they get ravaged by injuries or if Brunson goes down. Brunson's a tough SOB. So I would take the under.
Jeremy?
I'm sitting pretty with my 3.5.
No need to hedge. Okay.
Plead the fifth.
Not touching this. What if you were advising John? Would you take over 14.5?
If I were advising John and this had nothing to do with my record, I would take under 14.5. Okay. I think getting him to start 4 more games with 22 games to go might be a tall task now that Josh Hart is in the picture.
Yep.
Stranger things have happened. Hopefully they don't, because it means that players in front of him are injured. So I'd like to just keep the rotation set as it is. It'd be great.
I just want to say
Mitch,
of course. Yes. I just want to say for the record, I would guess that there was a lot of Derrick Rose talk amongst this point.
So I hate to say it, John, but this is another victory lap to Jeremy where he projected either a Derrick Rose injury where he'd only play 50 to 55 games. You also said you don't know how good he's going to be with the new body, that the weight loss might not make him more stable. I think it was more in the projection of like, well, because he's lost so much weight, how will that affect how healthy he can be this year?
Yeah.
And what we didn't factor in that maybe Father Time was the injury that would affect his playing time this season. So Derrick Rose, there's a question upcoming that is somewhat related to Derrick Rose, but not really. Okay. But yeah, the shout out to your John. Your assessment was that if Brunson went down or someone went down and they needed a point guard,
I remember
it would be Deuce. And because that was the year before the Houston game where he started Deuce and quickly didn't start.
Yeah.
So
oops.
Yeah. Well, one we can both. Well, we'll all take a victory lap on this year. I'm going to assume one more than others. How many games will Tom Thibodeau coach this season? We had 3 different lines. We had 20.5, 60.5, which is what we are at now, and 81.5. You could have chosen either of the lines to go over or under.
I'm assuming
all three of you, all three of us took the over on 81.5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes,
that speaks for itself.
Yes, what would have to happen in the next 22 games for him to get fired? Some muckraking, some secrets.
Jeremy Lin would need to take the city by storm, and Carmelo Anthony would need to take unkindly to it, and Tibbs would be like,
"Okay, Berman, you can stop. Sorry that a better player wanted to play. Never mind. I'm not doing this anyway."
I got one. Just follow whatever script the Mets seem to follow.
Oh, you know what's the worst part about this, Jeremy? That episode was the night the Mets season ended, and here we are. And that was the night that I chose to forget about watching baseball for the last 365 days. And here we are doing this episode as baseball's about to begin. No doubt about it. I'm ready to get hurt again. I think Tom Thibodeau is safe for the rest of the season, barring some cataclysmic collapse by the Knicks on the other side of the All-Star break. Next, and I guess this is kind of the Derrick Rose question, how many players on the current active roster will be traded at some point during the season? I set the line at 1.5. You both went over.
So we were right.
Yes, you both were right.
Thank you, Archie and Svi, for playing.
Yeah.
Active roster. Yes.
I'm not going to take a victory lap here because I went over, but the spirit of the question is, I mean, active roster. Yes, Svi and Archie got us all the over. I'm actually, I'm surprised, let me rephrase that. At the time that I was answering the question, I thought it was going to be more impact, quote unquote, impact players, like players that somewhat like mattered either now or at some point in the past would have gotten moved. I would not, if you would have been like Cam and then 2 guys who don't play, I would have been like, oh no, it's going to be more than that. And it was not.
Okay. Well, next is about this offense that is currently 6th. And while we didn't project 6th in offensive rating this season, how many Knicks will make 100 3-pointers this season? And this is where
I remember this question.
Where we have to. So I actually set the line weird in that I made it 5.5. And then John went through NBA history and was like, no team's ever done this. Had more than 5 players have more than 100 threes. So I'm definitely taking the under. And then I was like 4.5, and you both took the over anyway. Where they currently stand, Julius Randle has made 161 3-pointers this year. Jalen Brunson has hit 106 3-pointers this year. Emmanuel Quickley has made 101 3-pointers this year. And then 2 more behind them are not there yet.
I'm looking at it.
RJ Barrett has 94 and Quentin Grimes has 89. To get the over, if we want to get to 6, Obi Toppin has made 53 3-pointers this year. So in those 9 to 11 minutes, he's going to have to hit 47 3-pointers the rest of the season in 22 games.
So the new line was 4.5?
Yes, 4.5.
And we took the over.
Well, so yeah, like if you were taking the over for that, then you're both probably going to hit it.
So we're going to hit that. The wildest thing about this by far is the guy who set the freaking club record a year ago is not going to come anywhere close to the over.
Evan Fournier has hit 33 3-pointers this season. Yes.
And I'm sure he factored into our discussion.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's why I said it too. Yeah.
I'll take it one step further. Not only is it wild that Fournier isn't in the idea, the criteria of top 5. If you were to tell me that there would be a Knick participating in the 3-point shooting contest, never in my wildest dreams would I have said it was Julius Randle. And yet he's leading the team, and here we are.
Yes. 161 3-pointers for Julius Randle.
You could go even a step further with that. If someone were to tell you before the season that at the All-Star break, there would be one player on the Knicks that would have 55 more threes than any other player on the Knicks, like what odds would someone have needed to give you for you to say Julius Randle? Like would be I can't even imagine.
He didn't even attempt 55 threes until he got to the Pelicans.
He's going to have
per season, like in each season.
He's gonna have more threes this season than I'm not counting his first season because he played one game or a part of one game, but he's gonna have more threes this season than in his first. I looked this up earlier today, like his first 4 or 5 seasons combined, something ridiculous like that. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
wild.
Randall has been outstanding, and it was great seeing him in the 3-point contest this weekend. But is he award worthy this year? And this season, how many top 3 to 5 finishes in awards voting will the Knicks have this season? I say 3 to 5, and I went through a long way to explain this the last time.
I remember this.
Because the MVP is a 5-person ballot, and every other award is a 3-person ballot. So that's why it's 3 to 5. How many Knicks will finish top on the ballot, basically, in the final awards voting, top 3 and everything else, but MVP and top 5. I set it at 2.5 because in the We Here season, they had 3 people. Julius Randle, obviously won most improved player. Ka-ching. Derrick Rose finished top 3 and 6th man of the year, and Tom Thibodeau won coach of the year. You both took the under. Oh no, John, you took the over. And then
Jeremy, I took the over?
You took the over.
Are you sure?
So this is also my fault. I said 1.5 as the line, not 2.5 as the line. And you took the over. That makes it different. But I'm remembering what you said now. I don't know how it's going to be. I don't know how it's going to be, but they're going to get there because I'm high on this team, is what you said.
Okay. I can imagine myself having thought quickly 6th man.
Mm-hmm.
What would the other one that I would have talked myself into?
Jalen Brunson, most improved.
Maybe.
It's why Jeremy took the under, because you actually said Halliburton would be your first guy for most improved. And then nobody said Lauri Markkanen, but the Jalen Brunson and the RJ Barrett conversation was had.
I know for Brunson, I felt that he already had his coming out party in the playoffs, so it wasn't going to carry over. Or I'm sorry, that it was going to carry over, so it wasn't going to be, oh, wow, look at this brand new season. It's like he made his mark there. It was great. He deserves to be in the conversation, but, it's not going to happen. It's going to go to Markkanen.
Do you know who the top 3 odds are right now for most improved player?
It's Markkanen, SGA, and who?
Jalen Brunson, he's 3rd.
Oh, okay.
Yes. I will say, depending on where you look, who's the favorite, on BetMGM, Markkanen and SGA have the exact same odds at plus 130. On FanDuel, Markkanen is ahead plus 135 to SGA plus 140. And then on Caesar Sportsbook, SGA is the favorite, plus 105, plus 115 for Lauri Markkanen.
I'll stick with, since I went over 1.5, I'll stick with it. I don't want to go back on it. But right now, for as much as I think Brunson could get on that ballot, even though I think he deserves it, I am less bullish on quickly actually getting onto that final 3-man ballot for 6-man. There is one other name, and he's not a player, but would not shock me. It would not shock me.
Really?
If Tibbs found his name on there. No.
Top 3.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I understand it's top 3. But so I just want to say with most improved player, reason why I don't think Brunson will finish top 3 is because, Markkanen and SGA are going to finish at least in the top 2. If Brunson finishes ahead of Halliburton, but Halliburton makes the All-Star game and Brunson doesn't, it would basically be the voters admitting they got it wrong. We could talk about, clearly after in the second half, right? Those 22, however many games that each team plays, that's where he solidified it in the playoffs and all that. But it just feels like they would double down. No, one of them's an all-star. This is assuming Jalen Brunson is not named as an injury replacement, whereas the other is not. And I think there's a pedigree factor. They like these shiny awards to go to the people who already were named to these positions. As for Tibbs, I don't think he will be in the conversation for top 3. I think he'll finish maybe top 5,
top 10,
top 7. He's done obviously an admirable job, but I don't see him as being in the top 3.
Who do you think is number 1 for Coach of the Year right now? And odds, John?
Mike Malone?
Mike Brown.
Oh, Mike Brown.
Yes, plus 200. Who do you think is number 2?
Mike Malone?
No.
Is it Missoula?
Joe Mazzulla. Same odds, plus 200. Who do you think is 3? And this is where you say Mike Malone.
Mike Malone.
All right. Who do you think is 4? Both of you can answer.
Bickerstaff?
No.
Doc?
Did you say Jacques?
Doc.
Jacques Vaughn is 5th. Doc Rivers is 6th. Number 4 is Taylor.
Oh, Taylor.
That makes sense.
Who do you think is 7th?
Oh, God.
We're doing this until we get to Tibbs.
Tibbs, I looked earlier today. Tibbs is 12th or something.
Is 7th Budenholzer?
8,000. Yes.
Yeah. But this was as of 10 days ago. I looked.
7th is Will Hardy.
Okay.
We'll see if that changes as they descend.
Willie Green is after Will Hardy at plus 3,000. JB Bickerstaff is after that at plus 3,000. Rick Carlisle at plus 4,000. Mark Daigneault is plus 4,000. And Tom Thibodeau is plus 8,000.
How is Rick Carlisle that high up and the Pacers currently
this is
sit with
February
the 6th
8th.
worst record?
February 8th.
This is the most recent.
But the Pacers were still descending before then.
I think many were predicting they'd be long since tanking by now. And
sure, but they're doing that now. They're losing with their best players on the floor.
He was probably closer to 1, 2, or 3, and now he's at 10, 11, 12. Yes. I agree. Tibbs could probably finish top 10 in this. This whole exercise was to point out top 3 is. I don't think they're giving it to him. I don't think he's going to make it onto a lot of ballots first or second. Maybe a couple of third place votes in the market. That's all I can see it though.
That's fair. Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yes, a couple more. How many teams will finish ahead of the Knicks this season? I set it at 8.5. You both took the under, so the Knicks would finish better than the 9th seed. And oh boy, are we looking right at the moment.
Sweet.
Yes, and then the last one. Actually, you know what? Hold on. Let's go back. How many teams will finish ahead of the Knicks this season? I'm giving you an alternate line with a free bet. I'm saying 5.5. How many teams will finish ahead of the Knicks this year?
I think
Currently in 6th place in the Eastern Conference, a game and a half behind, 2 games in the loss column behind the Brooklyn Nets.
I think they'll finish at least 6th. So
that's the over.
Yeah.
If they finish 6th. If they get higher than that, that's under.
I think they'll finish 6th.
Okay. Jeremy.
I'm going to agree with that. I think one of Brooklyn, Miami shakes loose.
Yeah.
Okay. And then last but not least, how many games will the Knicks win this season? FanDuel and DraftKings had it at 38.5. I set the line at 41.5 before the season. You both took the over. They need 9 more wins to hit the over. So I will now give you an alternate line if you'd like to double up, if you'd like, and go to... I'll set the line now at 43.5. They have 22 more games.
43.5?
Yes. So they'd have to win 11 more games. Go 11-11 the rest of the season.
I'll take the over.
I'll take the over.
Okay. Let's see how froggy you guys are feeling. What about 46.5?
So that would mean 47, which would mean 14
15, I think.
14. No, that'd be 14. 33 wins right now.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I can't add.
So it'd be 14 and 8?
That'd be, 14 and 8 the rest of the season.
Oh, my God.
This is fun.
I'm going to say under.
Okay.
I think there's a sweet spot. 14 and 8's doable. So here's where I'm struggling. They have the 8th toughest schedule as of this very moment.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of those games are going to be at the end of the season. Like, I mean, this is all at the end of the season, right? But 2 of the last 3 games are against the Pacers. There's a Houston game in there. There's an Orlando game. So there's some games where I think they could have some gimmies. What isn't necessarily being stated is that from March 3rd until March 14th, they play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games. Of those 7, 6 of them are on the road,
including 4 out west.
Right
now,
so I'm going to stick with my under. I don't think they'll win 14 games for the rest of the season.
So under 47 wins is what you're predicting.
Yeah. So I'm saying what?
46.
40. Yeah, but like 42 to 46 is what I'm saying.
44 to 46 because you took the over on 43.5.
I feel good with that.
I'll go under. I agree with Jeremy. I think Jeremy nailed it. I think the sweets, like setting it at whatever it was, you said 46.5. I think that's a tad rich for my blood. So,
well, in honor of Robert Cross, I'm also gonna set a line. I'll give you plus 2,000 at 52.5.
You could give me plus 2 million.
Then you'd rather just keep your $100?
I would rather not light my money on fire. Thank you, Robert Cross.
I would agree with John on that one.
Okay, there we go.
And that was Claudio Casino, ladies and gentlemen.
That was great. I enjoyed that. Which is to say, I did not enjoy that at all.
I love Claudio Casino. It's great. I walk away like a millionaire.
There you go.
You got a cigar hanging out of your mouth.
Yep.
Banging cocktail waitresses 2 at a time. I'm like, what? It's a classic line from great movie. Greatest American movie ever.
It's true.
It's applicable.
Does it happen in Claudio Casino?
Definitely not Pastor Claudio Casino. Hey, John, a newsletter writer said we shouldn't curse on the pod anymore, but we're banging cocktail waitresses 2 at a time.
You bang pots and pans.
Yes, we're banging pots and pans and cocktail waitresses. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's what they're doing. They're banging pots and pans. That's all they're doing, kids.
Yeah.
Just cooking. Just cooking in the kitchen.
Oh, they're cooking.
Andrew, Claudio, Casino Master Extraordinaire. Thank you for your efforts here. Do we have any? Jeremy Cohen, you're a scholar and a gentleman. Thank you. You kicked my ass again.
And you're going to win. God.
And you're going to win predictions this week. I hope you win predictions this week.
If I lose predictions, it means they went 0-2, and
I don't want to start second the post All-Star break going to. Andrew, anything else before we get out of here?
Nothing. Enjoy your breaks. The rest of your breaks, everybody. We'll be back with more content later throughout the week, and more games on Friday, a pregame show, and then a postgame show.
Giddy up. Thanks, everybody. Peace out. Talk to you soon.